to get back on here and say hello to everyone. I have been bird dogging, and I'm getting pretty close to the kind of deal that, that I'm always looking for. Something with poorly managed, great potential, great location, has some things going for it where it can be. The street looks pretty good, and actually I own most of the street, the big buildings on the street, and so it's going to give me one more asset that I can clean up and fix up. There's economies of scale when you got property near each other. They're easier to take care of. Hey, Liam, good to see you. Hey, Liam, any word from our potential seller on that one deal? So Liam's in the class, by the way. He's already made about $1 million too. But a Gilded Warrior. Anyways, look, tomorrow night, 7 p.m., so around this time tomorrow, I'll be going live and into a Zoom. And those of you that want to get into that, just go to the FlipAnythingUSA.com/webinar, and you can get in. You can get in. When you come in, have your camera on and your mic off, and be ready to ask questions. And I like tough questions. I want you to scrutinize and question everything you hear. If something doesn't sound right, it doesn't sound believable. This is what you do with anybody that's pitching you how to get wealthy, how to make money. You should always be smart enough to ask very pointed, straightforward questions, because otherwise you're never going to know a fake from somebody real. But I'm excited. I finally got something on the line here that looks pretty good. Actually, Liam does too. We've been talking about his deal. I wish that deal was closer to me, actually, Liam. Just for myself, I'd like to have one. The one I'm working on is, it's almost... Liam and I are working on one a little bit that he's got. He's one of my students, and I wish I had that deal near me, but it's in his state, it's in his city, and it has some real potential. We're still working on this. We're working on the seller. That's kind of how it works. You'll learn all about that if you get into the class. But anybody want to go somewhere, look at something? I got about a half hour to hang out, and any questions, like tomorrow, here's the class if you want to get in for a live call, there's that. Anyways, I'll be right back.
And listen, time is on a mission to eliminate all the snake oil and the fake gurus that fake y'all. He'll show you how to build an empire, starting with nothing but a desire. All you really need is a good mentor, not a used car bullshit. With time, you'll learn to crush it. Investing like Warren Buffett. With real estate, you cannot procrastinate. Everyone who hesitates is left at the starting gate. Hey, yo, so don't delay and join today. The mentorship and flip anything. USA, go.
You want land. Who doesn't want land, right?
Kevin in here. How did I get that?
Don't.
What happened? That's funny. Got a neat Kevin clip in there. I have not done anything on Kevin in a long time. So, look, tomorrow, if you can get in the webinar, if you, especially you couples, if you haven't bought a home yet, you're on board to get an asset. It's so important you buy your first home right. You buy your first home, get it for $50,000 or a couple $100,000 under market. That will give you a substantial step in establishing your portfolio with the one house that you live in. If you're creating a family, you got kids, you want a safe place, school, that sort of thing. A lot of people, I didn't live until the fifth house. I bought 5 houses, I lived in the fifth. And the places I rented, nobody would really want to live there. Unless they worked most of the time, which is what I did. It was a place to crash. But those options of living, in a not ideal, not a great place, and choosing to work, like 12, 14 hours a day, which is what I did all through my 20s, early 20s. That's a choice you make, and not everybody has to do that. But if you set your priorities to get what you want to get. And, when I was a young man, that's it. I was like overhead low. The only thing I did, I had my laundry done. I almost never done my laundry except when I lived at home. I always sent my laundry out to be done at a Chinese laundry place. And, I would eat out every morning, and I would work all day. And it worked out pretty well for me. I was wealthy. I was a millionaire in my 20s, and this in the 80s. And it was a good time. And when I finally hit that first $1 million, and I sold my company, and I got another $250,000 for my little cabinet shop that I built up. I just never had to look back again. Never had to work for anybody else. And that's why I get a kick. It's like raining today. I had workers that couldn't work today, roofers that are working for me that couldn't work today. And I remember those days when you couldn't work because of weather. It means you didn't get paid. We've all had those days if you're a carpenter or you're somebody that works out heavy equipment, that sort of thing. So look, we can talk about anything. Tomorrow I know I got a few people signing up here that are planning on being out tomorrow. And, some people are interested in apartment buildings. Other people are very interested in converting their residential assets to commercial, something I do a lot of. I've been doing that my whole life, right? I make money with the residential properties, and then I buy, with those profits that I make on those properties, I buy commercial, industrial, flex properties. Like me and my son were shooting some videos today. The kinds of assets, like a lot of people, who's afraid of having a warehouse? Anybody afraid of having one tenant in a big warehouse? Anybody terrified of having like one single big tenant? A lot of people are. We can talk about that. Apartment buildings, apartments. I've made millions on apartment buildings, and they're not my favorite property. But like I tell everybody in the class, there is no bad real estate. There's just bad deals. As long as you make a good deal, it could be a junkyard. You could buy anything. You could buy a dump, that's in a dumpy area. It could still be a steal. It could still be a steal. But the main thing, what I always try to pound home to everybody is, everything is nearby. Don't let anybody fool you. All the deals, they're making millions of dollars on a single deal. It's all right near you. And a lot of people, it's really easy for people to say, I'm going to give you the super leads. I see these yo-yos advertising, we got the best leads. We got the best leads. Listen, you'll never need a lead company ever. You get in my class, you'll know how to find all that stuff on your own, and you won't even have to, all this stupid AI stuff that they push is like finding the leads. Listen, it's all you got an AI going through a database, something you can do yourself quickly. They've already been, extremely convenient for like the last 40 years. I had a database, way back when in the 80s, in a very clunky computer. But, the people like, everybody always tries to, try to latch onto something new as technology and wrap it up like it's just so special and that you got to get on it. Look, AI is mind-blowingly great. And but as far as generating leads, I mean, the bottom line is if you're going to go to a lead, somebody that's going to supply you with leads, they're supplying the same leads to everybody. You understand? Hey, I'm looking for the best deal on a house. Where at? California, Los Angeles, wherever. Here's what we've determined are the best leads. Here you go. And they do that with 1,000 people. And then you got 1,000 people calling the same people. And the thing is that the further you're away, I get yo-yos calling me from Arizona that are interested in, the house that I have. And I'll say, oh, yeah, what'd you think of it? Oh, yeah, we're really interested. I said, well, do you live around here? Oh, yeah, we live around here. I said, well, come on over. And they're like, they can't come over because they're lying. They're not in the area. And that's the thing. You have a substantial advantage over anybody. When you concentrate on your area, you can go there in 5 minutes and take a look. You drive by it every day. There's so much to making money. And look, I've been doing this for so long. I point to this because this is the stuff that the bullshitters out there can't do. Look behind me. This is my first $1 million when I was in 20. All these, and this is everything. This is land. This is duplexes. This is, single-family homes, commercial buildings, industrial buildings. I've got an overpass in here. I bought. I got that. That's an overpass you see right there. I used to own 1/4 of that overpass, and the city took it from me by eminent domain. But I got in the path of progress because I knew it was coming. I got that thing for $64,000, owner carried by Lillian Kalari. God rest her soul. I'm sure she's passed away by now. She was an old lady then, and I'll never forget the story. She after I bought it from her during the purchase from her, I was talking to her on the phone, and she said, "How you doing?" She goes, "Oh, not too good." And she's telling me how her whole family, they all had ropes in a tree, and they're all pulling it down. And she in there, and she loops the rope over her thumb, and they got a truck attached to this thing and everything else. Everybody's pulling, trying to help. Well, the truck, I think, that had the biggest line and pulling the thing down, it snapped. So it yanks the rope out of everybody's hands. But in her case, it yanked her thumb off her hand and shot it like a slingshot. I don't think they ever recovered it, actually. But be very careful. Be very careful what you do. A lot of people just don't understand, physics and just don't have a basic understanding of safety, and they don't know, anyways. But certain things you remember about in your deals, and that one was a hard one. I probably put an image in your mind you'll never forget, right? But so look, who's interested in what? What are you looking for? I mean, listen, everybody here, get out of your comfort zone. If you're doing the same thing that you've been doing, and nothing seems to get better, I'm just telling you, you gotta just muscle up, man, and do something different. It's hard to get motivated, and I mean, tell you, it's harder to get motivated when you're already wealthy because you don't have to do anything. Anything that even starts to feel like work, you can go, forget it. You know what I mean? And so, because I have young boys, I have, young men, my sons that are 21, they're entering into the workforce, and I'm determined to show them and try to teach them everything I can about making money in real estate. And so I'm kind of like, I'm excited about that. Plus I enjoy working with my adult kids, and I've got my 2 daughters in houses now, and with big equity, and I want that for everybody. By the way, anybody wants to call, we can call and talk about things too. Lifeversity wrote, do you believe prices will continue downtrending through 2025? Yes and no, not everywhere. And I believe that you can always make a deal, because I've been in way worse times than we're about to experience. Believe me, I started in way tougher times and higher interest rates. There's going to be a lot of great opportunity. We can already see it. I have an accountant that rents from me. A pretty big space. 8,800 square feet. That's a pretty big office, right? And when she started with me, I think she had 4 accountants. Now she's got 26. And, she may be going to 50. And she has seen a huge surge since Trump's been elected. And you saw the stock market shoot through the roof. I actually bought Truth Social stock. I did it just to support, President Trump. And I didn't even expect to make money on it. But that thing shot through the roof after he got elected. And I sold it off, and, I made, probably 30-40% on my investment. And again, I'm not a stock guy at all. That was purely political what I did there. But anyways, so Lifeversity, look, you can buy in a market that's going down. You just have to buy substantially below the line so you can get in and out, before you get near that, they converge. And even all these properties you see back here, these were in the toughest of times through the 80s. It was no fun. Interest rates were high. There was gas shortages. There was all kinds of garbage like that going on. And, a lot of political stuff that tortures the people. They do it today. They did it then. Nobody was interested in a balanced budget back then. And probably still no interest for politicians. But there sure is. which, we're talking about that DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. We need Department of City Efficiency, right? The cities, you can see it all around you. They waste more money. I mean, it is crazy. You get rebates. I remember I used to resent it because, I had apartment buildings that, I can show you some of those too. But even back when I had apartment buildings, they'd all of a sudden have a thing where, hey, we'll pay for all your toilets if you change them out. Now, why? Because I can go from a 5-gallon flush to a 3-gallon flush. I should want to do that for my own savings. I don't need the incentives of the city. But you got to understand, when they do those things, it's not for you that's receiving the benefit. It's for the guy that's maybe selling the toilets. He's lobbied, his councilman to do these things, and under the guise that, it's saving water. And that's what they always do. They try to, it's like sugarcoating a turd. They have something terrible for the taxpayer, but they wrap it up, make it look like a pretty something, a gift or a turd looking like it's a piece of candy. And, but that's what they do before they sell it. And, people buy into it, and they just don't get scrutinized hard enough. But it allows them to give substantial chunks of money away. And those people that benefit from it return and, throw money back their way to get them reelected. And maybe some of it goes on, under the table, that sort of thing. It's always a good idea. If you're going to be a developer, you should always donate money to at least a couple of people on the city council, the mayor for sure, that's going to win. And then you should also, donate some money to at least one or two others that you like, or even if you don't like them, you should, it's just good to have friends on the council, and if you support them in getting their spot, whether you like their politics or not, it's just good business to do so, because then when you do have a problem of some sort, you're going to get their ear, because they'll say, "Oh, who wants to talk to me?" And they look at the list. Oh yeah. That guy, he gave me some money last year. And so then you kind of move to the top of the list, and then you get a talk. And they're like, well, let me see, I'll have my assistant. That's what they do. They say, well, let me get my assistant on that. And then they say, assistant, meet Tom. He's got this issue. Take care of it. And then they go down there, and they get to throw the weight because, they're there under, that mayor or that city council person. And they have to do favors for each other. And so some things that might require a vote or get passed, you have a couple of people on your side and telling the other side, hey, we need to get this through. And they're doing it for me. And then at the same time, they get it through. And then next time when they've got somebody that, they're helping out, then they return the favor. That's just how it works. That's politics, right? But anyways, anybody got anything particular on your mind? Or, I mean, Lifeversity, are you afraid to get in? I mean, we definitely have. I really thought interest rates were going to go up last time Trump came in. But he actually did a lot of things that kind of really spurred the economy, and so we got kind of a soft landing. And so I feel like whatever bit of a crash we're heading for right now, it's going to be a much softer landing than it would have been any other way with anybody else in there. I don't care if it was a different Republican that would have got elected. Nothing would be as good as it's going to be for us in the next, probably 10 years. So very, very excited for that. And I tell you, this is another thing. I sincerely mean this. And this is why you really should get in my webinar and start getting interested in real estate. I don't care if you get in my webinar or not. Not everybody gets in, even if they want to. But you've got this window of time, the next 10 years, where you've got a country that's going to be under good management, right? In other words, I am sure Trump is going to do fantastic things over the next 4 years, and I think that whoever gets elected after him, it's going to be a Trump-like candidate, a very Trump-like, candidate that will come in, and it will continue the good news. And with that happening, hey Anderson, good to see you in here. With that good news, they'll continue the trend, right? Drill, baby, drill. Slash all these shitty government jobs that we don't need. and save money and maybe get closer to a balanced budget. Probably never get to a balanced budget, but if we do, that would just be amazing stuff. So you guys don't remember, there was these two yo-yos that were Democrats way back in the 80s. And this is back when there was Gephardt and Daschle. And I think that was they were the head of the two houses. And they would, the head of the Congress and Senate, they were trying to sell a balanced budget like it was the worst thing in the world. Like, oh no, you don't want a balance. No, we don't want a balanced budget. You buy a car. It's an investment. You buy a house. But that's how they tried to sell. Throwing money down the toilet was trying to compare it to buying a home, something tangible that would turn into something. And then 85% of the country wanted a balanced budget, but they repackaged the lie. They basically said, okay, we're going to create the balanced budget amendment. Now, it meant nothing. But that way, every time somebody would ask them, do you support the balanced budget? A balanced budget. And they say, well, I support the balanced budget amendment, and I voted for the balanced budget amendment. That because it's a totally different thing. So it's a way to segue and get away from it. But we're not going to have any of that bullshit in the next 4 years. So you've got this window where the economy is going to be coming back. Prices will go back up, that I'm sure. So it's really great if you can get in and start acquiring some assets still under market. I wouldn't buy anything that you can't sell for more. Even if things are going down right now, or whatever it is in your particular area, I still would only buy if there's a big delta between what it's worth and what I'm paying for it. But if you start to feel things coming back strongly, you can play a game a little bit. You can kind of hold a little bit longer, to maybe hold a little bit longer than you were planning, and just watch. And if things keep trending up, but you just got to watch it like a hawk, and then dump it. I say dump it right away. In most cases, not all. The more money you have, the more wherewithal you have to carry, negatives and that sort of thing. Is that's a power that's that's kind of the luxury of being rich, and having that extra money is you can afford to make less on your money. Like when you're an average working guy, whatever, make 100, 200, 300, 400,000 a year, you can't afford to just make 5% on your money. It's crazy. And so you have to find great investments that you can buy, but when you buy it, it's got to be as plain as day. Like, you're buying a car that's worth 20 grand, but you're buying it for 10 grand. That's how, it's just a way to look at it, right? Everything has got to be a deal. It's got to feel like Christmas when you buy it. And that's what I teach all of my students. And that's how I've accumulated the wealth that I've got and grew very quickly. And, it doesn't matter if it's houses or commercial buildings, industrial buildings, like this little building here, as ugly as that is, I bought that for $240,000 and I sold it for $1,725,000. But what I want you to look at is it's hidden, right? Here's the, a good street, 5-lane street, no frontage, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But the location is excellent in regard to what? It's in regard to this, it's in regard to all these freeways. The access is incredible. So you can come down off this freeway, you can get off, and this is educational right here, folks. When you exit the freeway, you can get off and you can catch this road and come over here, right? Same thing, when you're going the opposite direction, you got a main, you can get off and the access is very quick. So when you pull out of this location, let's just say the people that work in here are in, 4 different directions. Well, this one's going to come out here and get on a freeway, head home. This one's going to get on, head the other way, head home. And then this guy, he's going to come over here where he can get on an artery and he can go, either direction. Because some places are an absolute cluster where you end up taking 5, it's so circuitous that 5 minutes goes by and then you're driving by your office, but the opposite direction where you left 5 minutes ago. But so those are just things you got to look at and consider. And that property there, that was a really good one. Like I said, I made $1.5 million on that. And then the day I took the profits from that $1.5 million, I bought another property. I'll show you it too. The day I bought that, the reason I sold this property, I had over $1.5 million equity. The only reason I sold it was to buy something better. And I'll show you what I bought with that. I just saw it a second ago here. I rolled that into a strip center. And this is another strip center. Now, I sold that for, $1.7 million, and I bought this for 2.8. Well, this is worth considerably more than the 2.8 that I paid for it. Now, and this is kind of how things grow. You keep getting better and bigger properties that throw off more cash flow. You keep buying better locations. And then like this one, what's really, really cool about this property is, it's right on what they call 79. And you can see it runs out here, right? Well, where it goes, the Kalahari, which is a big water park, which is a big popular feature out here. Then you go out here, there's Dell Diamond, right? Look at that. For the baseball fans, Dell Diamond's, happening venue. But that's not where the real money is, or why the real money is here. You keep heading out here to this place called Hutto, right? And what you'll end up seeing here is Samsung. You get out here, and eventually you've got these huge plants being built for these chip factories, and that's where the money is. Everybody's heading out here to go to work, and Taylor actually too, right? Let me see here. Which I urge you, look around. You can really cover a lot of space when you get up into Google Earth, but like you get out here. This is before I think this is the Samsung plant. Huge. I think it might be 1 million square feet out there, and that's where all these cars are heading. They're heading out down this same thoroughfare, right, where I just bought a property, and I got that property under market, and I've already raised the rent substantially, but it's still a great deal for everybody that's there. I have great relations, but see, that's the kind of thing, you want to be right here, and look at where we're at. I just told you there's a huge plant that direction out there, and where do people, best place to be, the going home side of the road. People are going to be coming home back towards me this way, towards my property you see right here. And since they're on the going home side of the road, what happens when you're going home? You have time. You have time when you're going, time to stop in, get a beer, get a massage, whatever, get your hair cut, go to jiu-jitsu practice, pick up your dog at the vet, whatever, pick up your dry cleaning. This is the kind of stuff where is where it's at. I mean, everything is, though. I don't want to limit you to saying, I've made money on like apartments behind this. I didn't own these, but I've made millions of dollars on apartments. I make millions of dollars in smaller chunks on houses, and but ultimately I want to roll and turn those assets, or those profits. I want to defer them into things like this. And so, look, those of you interested, please jump into the webinar tomorrow night. Go to FlipAnythingUSA.com/webinar, and we will talk directly. And anybody sits through that, 30, 40 minutes of my webinar, I guarantee you, you've never seen anything like it before. I don't know. Everybody tells me that. They go, Tom, they'll say, we've been to many webinars, never seen anything like that. Never seen anybody that can show so much property that they personally purchased so close to each other in a single area, and be able to answer questions intelligently on just all the different real estate that's out there. Everything you drive by on a daily basis, everything, houses, buildings of all kinds, apartments, trailer parks, anything you drive by, that's where the money is. It's in your community, and I've been doing it a long time, and that's why you see all those blue dots covering this thing. So listen, if you're not interested, you should be. There's something wrong with you if you're not, unless you, I can't imagine, why this wouldn't appeal to anybody. I don't know anybody that makes the kind of money that I make, except for guys like Ben Mala and Manny Koshbin. similar, all those guys, actually, where we all have something in common is we all came from rough circumstances when we were young. Not a lot of money in the family. And I think that's the driving force that drives guys like me and those guys to get out there and bust their ass when we're young to make the money that we've made. And now, as I get older, I take great joy in, teaching other people how to do it. Look at that. There's 23 houses right there in one subdivision of 270. And I got damn near 10% of the neighborhood. Eric wrote, can you speak on lines of credit? I've heard of financing companies that provide cash to find real estate deals. Financing companies that provide cash to find, yeah. There's hard money lenders, but you don't even have to do that. If you start creating assets, then you have the ability to pull money. You have a line of, you look, you get a property paid for, or you pay for a property cash, and it will happen for you eventually. Pretty soon you're rolling, you're rolling $1 million made on a $2 million profit, and you put $500,000. Now you got $1.5 million that you got to put down on something else. And so, it's every story's different. Every deal is a little different, and I remember every single deal I've ever done. And so, what's cool is everything that happens. It just creates, you learn something. You learn something from every deal you do, every single deal. And sometimes they're big lessons, sometimes they're little lessons. Travis wrote, are there still deals in what, F1? I don't know what you're going to have to, Travis, write it out. I don't know what F1 means. Patent Finance, did you pick up your properties off market mostly? In the beginning, yes. I would say the first 100 deals that I did, so let me just show you. And I hate even saying deals, but yeah, look over here. In this here, most of this was bought off market, right? These are buildings. These are a lot of land. I went through a lot of land, but those are individual houses and buildings. Give you an idea, just take a look. There's a commercial industrial. This is like a flex space here. This is a little commercial building, a hardware store. Houses, this is a little dump. I paid a little house like that. This is back. We're going back into the 80s here. So that's something I paid $34 for, sold it for $56. Well, making $20,000 on a property like that, back in the 1980s, is like you made 60 or 70 like that today. And so I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, a lot of this stuff off market, not all of it. And if you don't have my book, get my book, by the way. You want to get a copy of my book for sure. And you want to hit that subscribe button, by the way. If you're interested in real estate and you want to learn from somebody that's actually really done this stuff, not some car dealer that's selling courses. Let's keep looking here. Brandon, do you avoid the bad side of town? Yeah, usually. I can tell you a great story about me going to Compton and meeting Mr. Brown. And, black guy, rough neighborhood, and made it. He just made it ever so clear. And I talk about that in the class tomorrow, by the way, in the webinar. So he says, any commercial buildings that are reasonably priced in my area are in places that I would not live. Well, if they're buildings, if they're residential properties, listen, the bottom line is, good. Hey, Tina. Tina says book's a must. It doesn't matter where you're at. It doesn't matter if you're in a tiny community or in a very busy area. I got guys that made millions of dollars in places that have a population of like 2,000 or 4,000. Actually, Shane, I was going to show this, by the way, because this is really cool. Shane is just a great guy. Him and his wife, Dee Dee. I'll show you this. This is something I'm editing right now. But let me see if I can show it to you. I just want to show you this beginning clip. Let me show you this for a second. Look at this right here. Watch, listen to this.
Oh, I want my son to do it. And because I'm telling him this is the best thing you can do for your future. You know, I mean, this can change your whole life. It did ours. And I don't know money you could spend more well.
Tom here, flipping. So what better endorsement can you have from a guy that's in your class that tells you, I want my son to do this. I want my son to do this, right? Nobody would advocate their kid doing something that they didn't feel 100% great about. And so Shane and Dee Dee, oh, let me show you. I didn't get to show you that. Sorry, I got my book covering the thing. So look, this is Shane and Dee Dee, and they've been in the class for less than 2 years. And but take a look at this. Shane he's gone his fifth deal right now, and he's sitting in his fifth deal right there. And this is a couple that came in with relatively small amount of money to play with, and made 13, made 100, made 120, made 50, making another 100 right now.
Oh, I want my son to do it. And because I'm telling him this is the best thing you could do for your future. You know, I mean, this can change your whole life. It did ours. And I don't know money you could spend more well.
Tom here, So anyways, like I say, that's what I was saying. You know, when a man says, "Hey, I'd put my, I want my son in this," that says a lot. And so I'm thrilled and flattered that people do get along so well. I'm making friends all over the country, not enemies. I'm not making people that feel like they got burned by me. I got people that are, friends for life. And, it's just a very, very, very cool thing. And I would love for those of you watching to be a part of it that would be passionate about real estate. You got to be passionate about it. You got to want it. I can tell you, I could take checks all day from people that I don't think would be an asset to themselves or an asset to the class, but I don't want people like that in the class. So I give them the best advice I can and say, you know what, come back when you hit this, or this. You can do it with the book too, So Patent Finance, just got your book. Oh, an audiobook. Yeah, perfect. That's perfect. That's exactly what you should do. Most people get the audiobook and the paperback. It's a smart way to go, because you're going to see contracts that deals that I did over the last 40 years. Some where I made tens of thousands, others hundreds and thousands, even millions. And so it's really, really powerful when you get see real life examples and the range of assets that I got. Everybody's covered. Everybody's covered that wants to get into real estate. I've been there, done that, and that's what you need. You really need that kind of, you need that kind of expertise. You need somebody that's been there, because otherwise, if you rely on advice from somebody that hasn't done it, that really hasn't done it before, then you are, you're dealing with a theoretical investor. And that's what most of these guys out there that are selling stuff are theoretical. You know what I mean? Or they're specialists in something that is so unimportant, sub 2 being probably the top of that. Anyways, Eric wrote, do we have to register for tomorrow's webinar, or do we just show up? Yeah, Eric, you need to go to what you see up there, FlipAnythingUSA.com/webinar. Click on that and fill out that form. Put in your phone number, because we'll end up probably texting you the link. But yeah, 100%. If you just got here, look, hit that subscribe button. Get in my webinar tomorrow. I've made tens of millions of dollars in real estate over the last 43 years. I own all the properties, or have owned all these properties you see behind me. And there's nothing I won't talk about. I got, these are houses. I've made millions of dollars on houses, buildings. This is an office building. This thing brings in, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And I own another 60,000 square feet up and down the street, just in this one little area. There's 20,000 square foot building, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and collectively I get hundreds of thousands of dollars per month in rents. And it's all from assets that are not far from home. And that's what I tell you, that's what you got to do. You want to be a specialist at finding assets that are near your home and near your work. It's a tremendous advantage, and everybody that's in the class knows that. Because I know someday I'd like to have a scientific survey done, but I am relatively 100% certain I have the most profitable students of any mentorship, of any real estate mentorship ever. Not just presently, but ever. And so, and I'd challenge anybody on that. And, Grant Cardone, Chris Crone, Pace Morby, Jerry Norton, Cody Sperber, anybody out there. I seriously don't think any of those, with one exception, have ever even made $1 million on a piece of real estate prior to using other people's money. And that's a problem. A lot of people act like they're big shots and know what they're doing, but all they're good at is using other people's money. And when you got other people's money, you got 3,200 investors, and you're getting a piece of all of their action. And they're only getting what they throw in. They get peanuts, and you take the gold. That's kind of how those funds are set up. Travis Woods, listen, you can start out with nothing. I like your question though, right? How much do we need to start out? Okay, I was 19 years old. I was starting a business. I didn't have any money, but the terms are what made it possible, right? The terms are what made it possible. So I can't say that you can't do it with nothing, because I started, when I say nothing, I'm a literal guy. Nothing is zero, okay? I put $500 deposit down. So I didn't start with nothing, but I put $500 deposit down on a property that ultimately set me on a course to become a millionaire within probably 7 years from that day. And it was because of that $500, I quickly found out that, I was offered $20,000 more than I just paid for it. So, and that's like making 60 today. That's back in 1981. So, and nothing's changed. Things are not different today than anybody that tells you, oh, it's completely different today. That's somebody that hasn't lived it. They haven't lived it. It's the same. There's no difference. No difference. In fact, many of the assets that I've bought and made money on, I can go back and look at the history. I could go back and buy those properties a couple times over the decades that I haven't owned them, and I could have made money on them. I like pointing to this one particular piece, and maybe some of you guys can relate to this in some way. I'll show you something, then I'll come to this, Brandon. But take a look at this real quick. Let me find that property. Yeah, I like this one. This was a cool one to look at. So this is 319 Kettering. And it's this one right here. So this house, I bought this house for $40,000. I had to buy it with a partner. I couldn't afford to buy it by myself, even though I own the building behind it. I just didn't have the cash. I didn't have the credit. I was too young. And but my buddy Dan came up with the money and bought this, and then he wanted to keep it. I said, well, we bought it for 40. It's worth 55. Give me $7,500 and it's yours. So he did. He gave me that $7,500. He went on. Well, this property, 40 years after I owned it, and I paid, when I sold it for 55, 40 years later, and you can see it up here on Zillow, right? See that right there? That's Zillow. Let's click on that. So here, 40 years after I bought it, bought it for 40, sold it for 55, somebody else bought it for $80,000. I saw it was all boarded up. Somebody bought this, and this is only like 2 or 3 years ago. Somebody bought it for $80,000, flipped it, and sold it for $200. And then the guy that bought it for $200, he's now trying to sell it for $300, right? So that's why I say it's not like, real estate. The beauty of real estate is it changes hands. So you have a forever inventory to draw from. It's just the most phenomenal, beautiful thing. And if you know what I know and my students know, in the next 10 years, it's going to be your window to make millions of dollars, millions. And, it doesn't take that long. I got so many millionaires in my class now, new millionaires, from learning the real estate and what to do from me. And now, and believe me, my guys are smarter than most of the fake gurus out there, and because they've gotten a hell of an education in a short time, but they're making money. They're making money, and that's the best education. So Brandon wrote, would you mind giving an opinion on this property? Let's take a look. We're going to take a look. If you just got here, try to get in tomorrow's webinar, but let's take a look at this property that Brandon just threw in the mix. And this is in, where is it? Oh, 200 Park, right? I got a red roof. Huh. What is it, a barn dominium? What do you got here? Looks a little strange. Okay. Tell me what I'm looking at, Brandon. Oh, it's a little bar. Oh, no. B&R Quality Meats. Oh, okay. Okay. So it's a butcher's. It's a butcher shop, correct? Yep, I see it. Yep. Yeah, I love it. You know, a little property like this, I mean, listen, it looks clean. The streets look clean. You know, this isn't a high dollar area. It's you know, but it's a clean community. It's a good, looks like a nice middle class area just from this little glimpse on the street. But let's go up and take a look. You've got, you're kind of near a body of water. That's interesting. Cedar River. Does it still have that red roof? I'm going to look around and see what's around it. What is this? Is this apartments or a school? That's apartments. Yeah, so look, and that looks like a fairly new building. You know, you got a nice area here. I mean, what it all boils down to, and I don't want you to do anything to screw your deal up. Okay, Brandon, yeah, I like that. So it includes the property next door? Well, you know, just so you know, if, you know, my greed meter's going up right now just thinking about your deal. So I would urge you to follow up on that. Get in the class tomorrow, number one. Yeah, or get in the, you know, the webinar. But hey, Russ, how you doing, buddy? Russ is also in the class. Brandon's got this little building right here. It's a butcher shop. Russ is one of my top students, and anyways, and he loves that real estate as much as anybody. I'll tell you, it's cool. It's fun to see. But he's got this little property. It was a butcher shop, and lot next door, clean neighborhood. What is over here? What's going on over here? Huh. Yeah, it's always fun to explore a new area. Oh, wow. Huh. Hickory House. What is Hickory? Is this, man, it looks like, is that another butcher place, butcher market, or do you know? Anyways, hey, listen, you know, the bottom line is you got a building there that could be used for all kinds of stuff. That could be I mean, there's people that need a, you know, studio. There's people that, you know, they're inventors. There's self-employed. There's people that have, you know, their little Etsy businesses. You know, and believe me, I'll tell you, it's a real eye opener. You know, I've got, you know, a couple 100,000 square feet of rentals, right? And I probably had nearly 500,000 over my lifetime. But the 200, 300,000 square feet that I have now, that stuff is, you know, mostly paid for, and but I have such a diverse group of tenants. I have, you know, I've got nuclear physicists. I've got some, you know, I've got fantastic, you know, engineers, all kinds, software, you know, double E's, and gosh, what else? Mechanical engineers. You know, a lot of smart people. You know, and I've had software companies come in, rent from me. make something fantastic, get bought out by a bigger company, and, and they're all rich, and so there's a lot of ways to make money. And there, like I say, there's no bad real estate. There's just bad deals. You look at this, and some people go up and they say, "Oh God, there's no windows. Oh, this is horrible." Another guy goes, "Oh, it's perfect. There's no windows. I love it." Everybody has a different. There is no bad property. I'm just telling you, there's no bad property. A lot of people freak out. They go, and this is one of the things, the confidence you kind of get away with when you get into my mentorship is you'll have something that you're truly concerned about and worried about, and you don't realize that everything you're worried about is nothing to worry about. People get warehouse. Oh, who's going to rent this big warehouse? Let me tell you something. Warehouses are like one of the hottest, rentals there is. I mean, there's people that have, have furniture companies, and they don't have a showroom, but they have a warehouse. They could have a warehouse in 10 different cities, and they're promoting like a store online, and then people see what they want, and then he has it shipped to his warehouse, and then he has local delivery from that warehouse, take it to, coordinate it with the person that's going to receive it. I've got some big warehouses, and I've got companies that have just filled with pool tables, big billiards outfit. Let's see, Russ wrote, I've done a lot of Section 8 in the past. Nice part is that the rent is pretty much guaranteed every month. Yep. And Brandon wrote, nice, Russ. Same experience on my end. Been great. I only do these 3-bedroom. Yeah. And we also have in the class, you'll meet her if you get in the class, Brandon. Oh gosh, why can't her name's escaping me at the moment? I don't know why. Always on her walk. Remind me. Dahlia. Another person that's had Section 8 homes. And, it's just, Brandon, I'm telling you, anybody here, we're talking about tomorrow's webinar, 7 p.m., but we're also talking about the class that already exists. You get in the webinar, you're going to see just how fantastically successful my students are and becoming, and you'll also see the fantastic success I've had over the last 4 decades, but you'll see that there's a path for you to get there too. And it's not a long road. It's not a long road, but you got to do something. You got to take action. You got to make it happen. If you don't do that, it's never going to happen. And so I would just tell all of you, look at, the last 5 years, just reflect on what you've done. We all do this, right? We all reflect at times. And then sometimes you can't see the forest through the trees. I like that saying. And it's true. Sometimes you just can't see the forest through the trees. You got to step back and take a look and get a different perspective. And even just getting in the webinar, I'm telling you, taking time to just get a little bit of training that you're going to get from me just in the webinar alone will help you. Will help you in the future. You'll get some really great lessons out of that webinar. So it take you 40 minutes to become smarter. And but I think what you do when you get in there, you'll realize, a lot of times people don't realize. I mean, they might feel like a big fish, but they're not. You're a speck. I'm a speck, right? There's so much more out there. There's so much money to be made. There's so much opportunity out there. And, you just, as I get older, it's like, I don't even care about taking advantage of everything now, because I'm grandpa now, I'm enjoying my life. And to be honest, one of the biggest joys of my life right now is teaching young people. And, young is, for me, relative. It could be 50's younger than me. So, is teaching younger people, particularly it's quite enjoyable to see men and women, in a couple of years, see more cash in their hands than they've ever seen in their entire lives. And now they see a path to retiring very comfortably, a path to teaching their own kids how to make money the way that they have now learned. And it's a beautiful thing. Eric, you gotta get in to find that stuff out. I could give the mentorship away if I wanted to, but I don't do that. But I do cut deals for different people. I'm sensitive to younger people and older people too. It's all over the place. I just look for sincerity. If anybody that's too lazy to come in and watch the webinar and hang out for an hour and learn something new, I don't even want you in there. I see people pop in and out, and it's like, adios. Most people come in, they're sincere, because I'm very clear about, don't come in unless you're sincere. if you I don't care if you really think you know what you're doing. Come on in. I tell people, I don't care if you've been doing this for 30, 40 years. You'll learn something, because I have been full-time, nose to the grindstone investor for most of my life. And because of those experiences, and I mean, a lot of that stuff I wouldn't even do again. I wouldn't even work that hard again. But I've done it. So now I have the stories and the scars and the rewards from all that stuff. And so it's a very cool thing. So if you're just now getting here, again, that's the link. Go to FlipAnythingUSA.com/webinar. The links are also below. And you want to get my book, you can get my book, Wake Up and Smell the Real Estate. Been a bestseller on Amazon, Audible, and Kindle. You get that. That's kind of like a big part of your guidebook for some of the beginning parts of what you learn. There's so much more to learn besides this. But, like I say, you can make $1 million just with the book, so certainly get the book. But I don't know, anything else to add? Russ, you got anything to throw out there? Anybody else? I'm glad you brought that property to look at, the butcher shop. You want to share how much it is? what you're talking about, or what are you thinking? What's your plans? But I can tell you, listen, I like everything. I like all property, but I like it. I mean, I like the way that looks. I like it. I like property, period. I like it. I like seeing the construction. I like seeing block buildings. I like seeing stuff that was built a long time ago, stuff that was built recently. Everything's got a certain aspect and beauty about it. But the number one thing is how much, because that's the number one thing. If the price ain't right, I don't like it. I might say it looks nice, but it's not worth it. And to me, when I say it's not worth it, it means it has to be below market. It's not worth my time unless I'm going to get it below market. And that's what you got to do. You got to hold your standards to making some real money. And if you don't, you won't. If you go out there and go, oh yeah, I'm just trying to find something I can get, make 10% on, or I can make 20% on, or 30% on. If you hold your standards low, you're going to hit your standards, and your money's going to be used up, and then you're going to be stuck, and you're going to be sitting still. And if the market goes down because you had such a small, or if you're a speculator, it's even worse. People buy property and with the expectation that the values will go up, and they buy and the values go down. They're upside down. Next thing you know, they owe more on it than the property's worth, and they are truly, truly stuck. That's why I tell everybody in the class, easy to do, hard to undo. Easy to do, hard to undo. And, you make a mistake, and, man, you could pay for it for the next 10 years. And if it's harsh on you for 10 years where it's restricting you from making money, really you're paying with it for your whole life. It's a sad thing. So, look, anyways, see you guys tomorrow, 7 p.m. I'll probably pop on again before 7 tomorrow night. But tomorrow night, so this time, we'll be right in the middle of the webinar right now. And it's short. It's not that long. And so I really hope you take time to register for the webinar right now. FlipAnythingUSA.com/webinar. I just can't tell you how many people miss out. There's people that it's right here. It's right in front of you. Oh, Russ wrote something here. Tom, what's better for retail? A building with a lot of windows or storefront doors and no windows? On the perimeter, close them all off, trying to decide if I should block off extra windows or keep. Okay, are we talking about the ground lease property, Russ? Is that the one you're talking about? Where you're going to have the drive-through in one of the buildings? And see, this is the beauty. You guys get to mix it up with really smart students. I'm telling you, really smart students. Listen, everything's different. Everything's different. So I'm going to answer Russ's question by just kind of making some examples, really. In general, I mean, if it just depends on what's going to take place. Yeah, okay. And are you expecting it to be retail, Russ? Or are you thinking it might be office or kind of a mix? Because it's okay. I'll just show you a building that kind of fits that criteria. In fact, one of the earlier ones I just showed, let me show you something. So So here's a retail property I own. And the question is, do I prefer storefront windows or regular windows, no windows? So look, here's a 22,000 square foot retail center. And it all has storefront. Let's just take a look. See, storefront, all glass. I don't remember that trailer being there. Where'd that come from? It's not one of mine. Anyways, storefront, right? It all looks great. Now, again, when you go inside these, this is a big empty shell with a kitchen in the back. This is a giant, huge open room with a bunch of, whatever, stations for fixing feet. So if you're thinking primarily retail, I go with the glass. Russ. I mean, storefront is great. And I mean, if it's like, look, here's a massage parlor right here. They don't care about, they always have everything kind of blocked off. They keep it dark inside. It's a place to go in and chill. So a window's really not even important other than, even if there wasn't windows on this, they would put these posters on the outside of the wall otherwise. So, but you're going to get people, from as soon as you get past the storefront, it's going to get broken into either offices or it's going to be a showroom, one or the other. But I think your safest thing also is not just storefront, Russ. Storefront, if you want to have a little bit of a hedge, and I'm glad you brought this up, double windows, right? In other words, side-by-side doors. Now you can see this one doesn't have it, right? This one just has single doors. I might have a couple of double doors. And the reason I say that is that when you have dual glass doors, they'll just use one. It'll say, we're open, or use this door, and that door will be the main door that gets used. But if they have something going into the showroom, like say they have a jacuzzi, hot tub, the ability to open up those two doors together so they can get a hot tub and make the showroom with stuff that's kind of big is a big deal. It's a big deal. So you want to get a couple of sets of double windows, double doors. Yep. Oh, that's what you're doing, side-by-side doors. Awesome. Never realized how expensive those storefront windows are. Yeah, well, you saw the one I put in the back of my house. Yeah, they get very expensive. But you know what? It brings in the light. The other thing is sometimes when you have sun coming in, heats the place up, and the air conditioner's got to fight it. But in general, that's what windows are for. So people can kind of see what's happening inside. And people feel like they're inside working, but they can see the light outside. That's important. But so that's awesome. So folks, hey, thanks for hanging out and watching. Please get into the webinar tomorrow, and you'll learn a lot. And it'll just maybe put you on a path, even if you don't do anything with me. It doesn't matter. It'll open your eyes to a world that you just don't know about, that you should know about. Anybody 20, 30, 40, anybody 30 years old, if you're not a millionaire, you should be a millionaire by now. I was a millionaire. I was a millionaire when I was 27, and that was, like 35 years ago, okay? And I did it just one deal at a time. And you can do it too, but you got to get started. Yep, that's great. All right, well, hey, everyone, thanks. We'll look for you guys tomorrow. I'll probably pop on again tomorrow. If I don't sleep, I'll be back tonight around midnight. Who knows? Otherwise, I'll see everybody in the webinar that jumps in. Talk to you later. Thanks for coming in, Russ, and everybody. You want to learn how to make millions of dollars in real estate? I've made tens of millions over my lifetime, and I'm showing people how to do it. Get in my free webinar. I have it every Thursday, 7 p.m. Central. Go to the link below, FlipAnythingUSA.com/webinar. Sign up for it. You can talk to me face-to-face if you want. Don't waste any time. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. You don't want to miss my channel. I've been doing it for years.